the transmission. Joined by the esteemed Viva for the most epic, antagonistic debate you've ever seen in your entire life. We hate each other. What's up, man? How are you doing? Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm just making sure we're live, and I think I retweeted, so we should get some of my crowd over here as well.
I appreciate that. I can use all the help I can get. How are you doing?
Not bad. This is going to be fun. Just so everybody knows, you were joking. I have nothing against you, even if some people think I should have something against you.
You should. You definitely should.
So we were talking earlier, but we met and we've been interacting since. I mean, it's been a few years, but primarily through InfoWars.
Yeah. I don't remember the first time that we ever interacted. So before I started working for InfoWars, I had my own podcast called One American Podcast. And once I accrued about, 150, 180,000 followers, that's when I started appearing on InfoWars. And within a few months of appearing a lot on InfoWars, I started working for InfoWars. And then there were some developments in Alex's legal case. And for some reason, I think we wanted you to come on and talk a little bit about that. And that's when we connected. So kind of on behalf of Alex, I think I reached out to you. And we've always had a good rapport, but it was Alex
absolutely.
stuff.
And that was when I was objecting to the Sandy Hook lawfare against Alex from day one. Maybe not from day one, when I broke down his deposition in 2018. And that's oddly enough how I crossed paths with Barnes, even though I didn't know it. Barnes was Alex Jones's lawyer in that deposition. I don't know if you remember that, when he said, I was suffering from a form of psychosis. Just so anybody in your audience might overlap more with Candace's, who
you've always been a friend of Alex's and InfoWars, and your position on Alex's case has always been consistent.
Yeah, no, it's consistent. And then I wake up, Tuesday morning. I wake up, I admit, admittedly and willingly kicked a bit of a hornet's nest, but that I started seeing comments to the effect that I support Sandy Hook lawfare, and I'm like, you idiots.
Well, if you pay taxes in the United States, you do, because it was federally funded.
Well, I pay taxes now, but I wasn't paying taxes at the time.
Yeah, so you funded it, bro. You're fed.
we all knew it was lawfare, and it was an abuse of the process from the get-go. But now I'm waking up to people who think that I supported the Sandy Hook lawfare to silence Alex Jones, is like just to erase 8 years of demonstrable and traceable history. But we'll get into that in a bit.
Yeah, nobody gives a shit about context. And I read the thread that you sent me, which was your response to the vitriol that you endured after whatever post, but I did not read the initial Sandy Hook comparison that you made. Can you kind of just give context to the audience and myself as to what caused this antagonism?
This is not a question of saying I said it first. I don't know if other people from TPUSA or elsewhere are making the Sandy Hook comparison or making a Sandy Hook comparison. Where I initially started saying, this is bearing some of the hallmarks of the Sandy Hook disinformation campaign. It's that when I started covering the Alex Jones deposition, and I was like, okay, he said stupid things about Sandy Hook. He apologized for them. They were nowhere near as extensive as they tried to make it out to be. But you don't sue people for that. Like he
was sued over like a total of 40 minutes of content, I believe.
I think it was less than 40 minutes over the course of 10 years. He was defaulted into liability. He wasn't allowed to say that he apologized, retracted. He wasn't allowed to say that he apologized to the families.
And the debt's not just chargeable. So even though he's bankrupt, he still owes the money.
Yeah, and the Supreme Court, I think, at last check hasn't taken this up. But so when I said, this bears the earmarks of the Sandy Hook disinformation campaign, is when I started covering that, I started getting messages saying, Viva, you're out in left field. Nobody actually died at Sandy Hook. And I'm like, I'm not going to call you crazy, but I'm going to think it. And I don't care if you believe that. We're never going to agree on that.
It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant whether he was right or not.
Well, no, but the issue is that people wanted other people to repeat disinformation or crazy, unsubstantiated conspiracy theories to discredit the individuals. They lured Alex in for a bit and they scored their victory, and then they ran with it in the lawfare. But my comparison was that I don't believe anybody or anything, period. And so when people are online saying, Viva, you're just gobbling up that Fed slop, using the term Fed slop is an IQ test that a lot of people are failing. I don't have to believe anybody, and I don't believe anybody.
It's a good word, though. I mean, obviously, if you abuse it, then it's stupid.
It's irritating right now. It's become the trope response that shows a lack of any form of critical thought along the lines of
the left called everybody Nazis and the right calls everybody Fed slop.
It's so when first of all, it's a mischaracterization of any and everything I've been saying about the Tyler Robinson prosecution. I don't buy the prosecution's case as though they've proven it in court. We're at the stage of probable cause. But all that to say, in Sandy Hook, they wanted people to repeat, untenable, and I'll call it borderline sanctionable statements, which I don't think they should be, but they wanted people to do it so they could go after them and discredit them. And they got Alex Jones. It's not an accident, by the way, that nobody really remembers the guy's name, Halbig. Do you remember Halbig's name?
No, is that the FBI guy?
Well, he was the initial one who spread the "nobody died at Sandy Hook." You don't remember the author's name?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, 'cause all this happened way before my time, way before I was even paying attention to politics. Because you got to keep in mind, in 2016, when he got sued, which was years after the actual Sandy Hook event took place, I was 26 years old, starting a marketing company, and I was not watching InfoWars or paying attention to politics.
No, of course, and it happened in 2016 for statements that he made in 2012.
Correct.
When it happened, so the ultimate op that played out of that, nobody remembers the other three names of the guys who championed and initiated the "nobody died at Sandy Hook."
Correct, because they weren't perceived to have money.
Yeah, well, no, because they weren't the ones that they needed to make an example of. They weren't the voices that they needed to discredit. So Alex got sucked in for a bit, got out of it, not in time, and they used that against him for the rest of his life. Yeah. That's sort of what's going on right now in terms of. I'm going to get to you in a second, Chase, because I said anybody who
take your time. I love this.
Anybody who seriously promotes the exploding microphone theory is basically, I think, falling into the same trap. And I know there are people out there who sincerely believe that the Earth is flat. I know a few. They're nice people. They believe something which is unfalsifiable to them. And I say on that issue, I think something has gone wrong. No, because right now I think it's more like the deep state-ish elements in this that are very happy with.
Who's fucking with you?
Well, I am offended. I am leaving this right now. I think people are trying to do that right now. They're also trying to make it impossible to ask the right questions. And that plays into the hands of whoever the culprits are behind this, whether it's organized or whether it just happens to be a group of furries. And so that was my purpose of the comparison. Then on Tuesday, give or take, I start seeing these comments. How dare you talk about Sandy Hook? Charlie Kirk disagreed with you. And then I figured it out. It's because Candace Owens dedicated an 8-minute segment of her show on Monday or Tuesday where she played my segment or my appearance on TPUSA and then said that I was basically sanctioning the lawfare that they did with Sandy Hook to silence voices. And then she played Charlie Kirk's words on Sandy Hook, which was what was done to Alex Jones was wrong. And I'm like, yeah, that was my position for 5 years before Charlie Kirk said it for the 5 years. And so all that to say, the internet is filled with bots, trolls, misguided people, and sincerely bad faith actors who will misrepresent out of ignorance or out of malice. I don't buy the Fed narrative in its entirety. There's some elements that I will agree with. I'm not going to disagree with them after my own analysis just because the feds say them, any more than I'm going to disagree with the earth is round just because the feds say the earth is round. So we do our best, we analyze everything, and we come to our own respective conclusions, and we hope to be able to substantiate them, which is where I say anybody espousing the exploding microphone theory has some answers to provide for how they can possibly believe that.
Okay.
That's your cue.
Yeah. I believe in the exploding microphone theory, but I don't believe in it like a flat earther believes in the flat earth. I'm like 55-45. You know what I mean? I could totally be convinced that didn't happen. It just looks like it to me. The extent to which I have any expertise or credibility in having that position is I've got a degree in audio engineering, and I know how you're supposed to wear a lapel mic, and it's weird that they put it on the inside. There's contextual stuff that raises issues. I can't prove it. I don't know that it exploded. And let me back up a little bit, Viva, because I want to give you like, I don't want to be hyperbolic, but I want to give you the entire context of like why my perspective is the way that it is, and then we can unpack that and tear it apart. Is that cool with you?
Oh yeah, for sure. Go for it.
Okay, so I happen to know a little bit about TPUSA that the general public doesn't know. Because during the campaign, I worked for InfoWars, and I did some work with TPUSA indirectly. I was never paid by TPUSA, but Alex was invited to speak at a TP Action event in Detroit, and Alex asked me to go along with him. During that event, J.D. Vance was backstage, and we got to meet him. Jack Posobiec was there. James O'Keefe was there. It was a really cool experience for me as just kind of like an up and coming, get to hang out with Alex Jones and everybody during a massive campaign, right? So we went to rally for Trump before Trump's election. And at that event, staying at the hotel that we stayed at, I got to meet and interact with people that were either directly involved with TPUSA or contractors for TPUSA. And I met a young gentleman whom I deeply respect. He's a friend of mine now. His name's Cliff Maloney. And he started an organization called PA Chase. And what he explained to me, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but this is what he explained to me at the bar at the hotel, was that basically after the 2020 election, Charlie realized that the Republican Party itself as an entity, right, not the people who vote Republican, but the actual organization of the party, was not going to do the things that were necessary to be done in order to win elections for Republicans, namely in door knocking, mail-in ballots, ballot harvesting, things like that. Mail-in ballots and ballot harvesting are generally speaking things that Republicans are opposed to. And so when those become factors in a political campaign, Republicans are less likely to enthusiastically participate in that avenue, right? So what Charlie did was obviously raised a bunch of money, and he hired various different organizations and contractors to do the groundwork in the swing states to get the mail-in ballots, to do the ballot harvesting to the extent that it was legal, right? So what Cliff Maloney with PA Chase did, for example, was I think he hired hundreds of door knockers, and they went to Republican counties with low propensity voters. So these are people that don't tend to show up for voting, but we know that they're conservative. We're going to make it as easy as possible for these people to vote. There were other organizations like PA Chase in the other swing states that did the same thing. And so in my opinion, the reason that Trump won every single swing state in the United States of America in the last cycle is because of the work that Charlie did, knowing that the Republican Party would fail to do it, in raising money, in funding these contractors or these other organizations to do the work that needed to be done on the ground campaign-wise to actually get the ballots, right? And so when I think about that in retrospect, and this is just context, it's not evidence, okay? But when I think about that in retrospect, what Charlie had succeeded in doing for himself was, as a civilian, he established himself as basically a monopolistic political power in all of the swing states because he controlled all the infrastructure that determined the outcome of presidential elections in those swing states, because no other organization, individual, or entity had access to or had built or established that infrastructure. I mean, he made the railroad. If you want to ride on the railroad, you got to go to the guy that made the railroad, And so from an incentive perspective, again, I know this isn't evidence, but just from an incentive perspective, I imagine that members of the GOP establishment, not the voters, not even some of the politicians, but members of the GOP establishment, members of the deep state establishment, certain foreign allies, perhaps, not necessarily, but perhaps, may have felt very vulnerable to the fact that Charlie Kirk could basically by himself decide whether or not he wanted to support a Republican candidate indefinitely into the future, and that would likely determine the outcome of the votes in key swing states. So when I look at assassination incentive, I can see why different entities or individuals might feel threatened by Charlie Kirk. Not necessarily enough to kill him. This is just context that I'm providing. I'm not trying to make a case or, claim that I'm certain of this, right? I just think that he was very vulnerable to bad people in a number of different areas, maybe not wanting him around anymore, or maybe wanting to diffuse the monopoly that he had or decentralize it in some way that was more controllable, predictable, or containable to an establishment, a traditional legacy establishment that wasn't accustomed to a civilian having that much control. That's one factor that I want to mention. So on the other hand, I don't at all find it unreasonable whatsoever that a rogue, mentally ill, perhaps on the spectrum, transgender person or gay person attracted to transgender people may want to kill Charlie Kirk because of some of the things that he said, particularly out of context. It doesn't seem odd to me. I'm not going to say Tyler Robinson directly, but let's just say a Tyler Robinson archetype. It doesn't seem odd to me that a Tyler Robinson archetype, as the official narrative proclaims it, would do something like get on a roof and shoot Charlie Kirk in the neck at a rally. So I think both kind of explanations like, hey, there's like a deep state incentive for killing Charlie Kirk or neutralizing Charlie Kirk, or hey, you know, maybe he was going to be against the Iranian war and Israel wanted him out. I think of Israel and the CIA as the same thing. Maybe I'm erroneous in that. I just really do.
No, if you want to be fair, think about all intelligence as relatively interchangeable.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
MI6, CIA, whatever. Okay, but
so you see the point I'm trying to make? Like, I see. I'm not saying it's unreasonable that a Tyler Robinson or a Tyler Robinson archetype would do what they say Tyler Robinson did. It's possible.
Well, it's not just that. What you're implicitly acknowledging is that Tyler Robinson could have been. You could concede it was Tyler Robinson, and still, if you want to entertain these theories, still not even reconcile it, but merge it with an alternate theory.
Yes.
The issue, and this is what I like. What you described could describe any number of entities that might have wanted let it happen on purpose to occur.
Yes.
Or a political rival who understands that Charlie Kirk is going to be a future president of America, a good conservative Christian president of America, and they want to maximize the chances of any lunatic having that opportunity to do it. And so leave enough doors open, eventually the crooks are going to get in type thing. That's where I would think that a lot of this questioning would want to go in terms of how it happened, how there was such security lapses, whose responsibility it was for the security, and whose responsibility was it for the lapses. How were there people apparently with advanced knowledge, how posting in advance something big is going to happen at UVU? How there was that guy George Zinn, who this is where I say I don't believe it is an astronomical coincidence that George Zinn happened to be there, happened to claim to have been the shooter. His explanation was so as to allow the actual shooter or the alleged actual shooter to get away. That's just a coincidence. He's just a crazy man who happened to be there. The guy
that dropped his pants and said he did it. Yeah.
George, the old man who then was, subsequently arrested for having child sex abuse material on his phone. So there are a lot of unanswered questions, and it doesn't even need to be predicated on the Fed slop foregone conclusion that Tyler Robinson fired the shot. It could come out that it wasn't Tyler Robinson on the roof at trial, that it was someone, a decoy, a lookalike, whatever. You have to get there. But where I'm telling you, and I sincerely believe that there is an operation going on, a psyop, for lack of a better word, is when the initial response from a slew of accounts on the internet, when anyone suggests that it wasn't an exploding microphone, to ask questions about the answers or the questions being provided by those who are asking the questions. Oh, the receipt issue. Oh, the Panguitch to Orem issue. Oh, when you start questioning those statements or affirmations, and the response from a great many is Fed slop, shut your mouth, from the people who are saying we're just asking questions. Zionist, shut your mouth. When this gets turned into a question about Israel being not just the suspect, according to many, but anyone who dares ask questions being paid by Israel or being a Zionist, we're not dealing with a natural, reasonable, or organic response to what would otherwise be any other conspiracy. And that's where I think something very, very, very fishy is going on. I appreciate there's a number of people who I think have been grossly misled by Candace, who's turned this into a spectacle for profit. Just asking
so you
questions.
Think she's just fucking around to make money, or do you think she actually believes what she says?
See, that's where it doesn't make a difference. The outcome is the same. I think she sincerely.
I think it makes a difference though, because there's a character difference.
Yeah, but I can't divine that intent. I know that I do believe that she is making just a shit ton of money. That's just a matter of fact.
She was before too.
But
with the Brigitte stuff,
the Macron story, that she made the money off that Macron. And now she's getting sued.
Sorry, it's so Canadian.
Macron, c'est un nom français. No, but I genuinely think that she sincerely believes that Macron is a man. Whether or not she convinced herself of it, it's irrelevant, because if she doesn't believe it, I'll never be able to prove it. If she does believe it, I'll never be able to prove it. And it doesn't change anything at the end. It's wildly misguided, because when you literally say, when you turn it into a spectacle in an 8-part miniseries, The Bride of Charlie, whether you believe it or not, you can believe in something and still do something wrong in pursuit of what you legitimately believe in.
Do you think it would be immoral for me to come out with a book, which I'm planning to do, called The Real Erika Kirk, based off of the content and the receipts from the Bride of Charlie?
You do your own thing for fear of some cosmic and godly punishment or judgment.
No, I'm genuinely asking. I'm not trying to argue with you about it. Like, do you think I'm fucking up if I do that?
The issue is, I think once you begin dissecting somebody, not because of any pre-existing legitimate interest, but rather because they become the victim of some form of tragedy, it's okay. Here.
Okay, so if you're investigating someone simply because you're exploiting the attention surrounding
now
a
it's like,
tragedy.
I've discovered a lot of things. Now I'm just going to start, dissecting Erika Kirk's life only because she was thrust into this position because of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. That's where also I can understand people saying TPUSA is covering something up here, in the sense that, just hypothetically, say
planning an assassination and exploiting one post facto are two completely different things.
Well, absolutely, or exploiting one, or let's just hypothetically say companies don't always do things by the books, on the books. Hypothetically, they might have. This is purely hypothetical, just in a movie sense. The company was keeping a second set of books. No one would have ever known about it, except now they got robbed, and the police are there, and they've got to hide their second set of books, notwithstanding the fact that they have been the victim of a robbery. So, if somebody wants to say, I don't know what any company did behind closed doors. I don't know what TPUSA was doing. I have heard the theory that some people say, well, they were maybe bending the rules to win swing states the way Democrats bend the rules to win elections. And if that comes to light, it could be a big problem for the entity. Now,
I don't know anything about that, but I just do know that they're the reason that Trump won the swing states.
Well, and I don't know anything about that. I'm also sort of building on some of what you said, which is, all right, let's just say they employed means that could be questionable if they were ever exposed.
Yeah,
Charlie
funded
Kirk
by Scientologists. Funded by Scientologists, by the way.
Well, that would explain why John Mappin's involved in all this. I didn't know who that guy was until I've never known of his name.
TPUSA is the Scientology of super PACs, bro.
See, there's some things that I learn every day. But,
TPUSA is the Scientology of super PACs.
So hypothetically, they were doing things which could be questionable if they were ever brought to light. Charlie Kirk gets assassinated. Now they're going to come to light. Okay, Charlie Kirk is dead. He's never coming back. It will be of no benefit to TPUSA to be exposed, if hypothetically. And so I can understand some people saying, well, they're covering something up after the fact. They want to limit the investigation so it doesn't reveal improprieties within TPUSA. Look, again, you can believe these things so long as you can concede you have zero evidence to believe them, but they might be fun theories if you want to write a John le Carré novel. So which is why when you said I believe it, seriously believe of the exploding mic theory, and I've genuinely and sincerely tried to engage with people who believe this or claim to sincerely believe it, and generally speaking, their answers are, I saw photographs which are blurry, whatever. All of a sudden, these are good enough of what appear to be burns and broken glass, because after a microphone explodes with a sufficient degree of concussive force to blow a hole in a man's neck or out of a man's neck, you're going to see glass in the car, after the man has been dragged off. So I just want to know how people can actually think they can believe that. And the answers are all stupid, period. Fantastical, nonsensical.
Can I give you a stupid answer?
Yeah, please.
So, and again, I know that this is not conclusive, man. This is just, these are reasons that nudge me to what's it called when you reinforce something you already believe.
There's confirmation bias.
Yeah, this is kind of my confirmation, and I'm aware of it. Okay, this is my confirmation bias thinking here on this. I understand that this is so loose. There may be incentive for Israel to want Charlie gone, right? Not necessarily want to kill him, but there might be incentive for Israel to want Charlie gone, since he was coming out against the Iran war, and obviously it's definitely in the interests, at least Israel thinks it's in their interest for us to engage in this conflict. There's incentive. Incentive is not proof. It's not even really evidence, unless it's got the context of other real evidence. Then there's motive, I guess.
You're describing motive unless there's evidence of act, which right now there isn't.
Correct. So. And then you look at that, you've got that confirmation bias, right? Where you just like, I have this disposition to think that Israel was involved in assassinations just because I so adamantly believe they were involved in JFK's assassination because they wanted nuclear proliferation. That's another story, right? And I tend to believe that Israel provides the assassin and America provides the patsy. And so, like, I'm thinking Tyler Robinson patsy, I'm thinking Israel assassin, right? But the exploding microphone theory is most appealing to me because, A, you don't wear a lapel mic like that. I know that. Obviously, not proof, not even really evidence, just kind of context.
I've got another word for it, but
I'll be polite. That's cool. No, you're cool. And I'm not like trying to drill you on it. I'm just saying like where I'm at, you know. And one of the reasons I want to talk to you is because I think you might give me some perspective that changes my view. Like I'm actually having this conversation with you to learn from you, not really to like debate or win.
I don't think I have much to teach in that sense, and other than critical thought and you know the logical questions to anybody who believes it was the exploding mic. I just say simply, what's your best piece of evidence?
The physics of the shirt movement and the fact that they made the pagers explode just a few months ago with shape charges imply like it looks like the same weapon. You know what I mean?
But you know why? I mean, that's the. I'll skip the first half because the way a shirt behaves when someone gets shot with a high cal, you know, with a 30-06, I don't know that there's standard, you know, predictable physics.
Well, the guy that killed Osama bin Laden disagrees with you. I don't know about ballistics. I don't know about this shit, but the reasonable men disagree about the physics point.
Reasonable men disagreeing shows you that by no means is it 100% impossible. And you'll forgive me for Rob O'Neill only doing interviews where nobody asks him any follow-up questions. I don't think having killed an unarmed man makes you a ballistics expert. You know, going forward.
Well, I think he's killed more than just an unarmed man.
I know he's killed. You know, he reminds everybody how many people he's killed. Like, you know, I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer killed and cooked a lot of people. I'm not going to take cooking advice from him. I forget who said that. But
well, if you're trying to cook a person, you might.
Nah, not even. I would still go to a good chef. They know how to tenderize protein. So no, but like the idea that so long as people say I have zero evidence, but Israel has used pagers. Okay, fine. That's the strongest argument anybody's made thus far.
Yeah, I've officially made the strongest argument.
No, I mean, I Steelman did a long time ago. Then I say, you know why they used the pagers? Because there was zero way or very difficult for them to infiltrate with humans, or at least, you know, with assets in these areas. It was an unreliable method to do it in the first place. It took years of human resources, of technological infiltration, and they only did it out of pure necessity because of how impossible it was to do it any other practical way. And it still was highly unreliable. They didn't kill all the people. They got a bunch of citizens. So you think that is the way that Israel's going to do it with an exploding lapel mic that was still there after Charlie got shot? Even Candace admitted that before she, you know, wanted to bring back the idea of an exploding lapel mic.
The lapel mic was intact after Charlie was shot?
Well, in the image, we don't know where it is now. And that you'll also notice people's evidence for why they believe what they believe is the absence of evidence. Well, where's the shirt? Where's the mic? These are legitimate questions. They don't evidence an exploding microphone. So they might evidence.
All I'm saying is, have you seen Erika Kirk wear a lapel mic since the event?
Well, first of all, I'm
just fucking with you.
No, I know. But also, so just say, like, I'll even entertain the idea. Yeah, you know, like people are saying Charlie Kirk came out and suggested or outright stated that Netanyahu gave a stand down order on October 7th. So Netanyahu's going to obviously have a motive to kill him. Fine. Do you know, you want to just like be logical about it? What would be the easiest way to do it? To go online and radicalize someone like Tyler Robinson and then have the roof be somehow magically not secured. You maximize all of the possibilities for let it happen on purpose through reasonable means. Why go through a extravagant, unreliable, complex, exploding microphone when all you would need is a guy from 120 yards making a shot that any high school hunter can make? So,
well, if you're going to radicalize a retard to commit an assassination, don't you think you might want to, a safety plan, a plan B? I'm thinking it's feasible that Charlie was shot by Tyler Robinson, but that the lapel mic also went off.
Yeah, but so you just want to try to marry a fantastical theory for which you have zero evidence other than the possibility that it's technologically possible with the most logical possibility, which is that people heard. Well,
you were simply asking the question, why would they assassinate Charlie in this way when there's so many other definitive or certain ways for them to do it in the United States of America as compared to, in
tons
Gaza,
of Hamas or the West Bank.
Right. So, and I was responding like, maybe they did actually, I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe Tyler was part of the plan in the lapel mic exploding, which seems visually to have happened. No proof. It seems visually to me to have happened. Yeah, maybe that was just kind of like a safety, like, hey, let's make sure we really got him.
The reality is, it's very easy to weaponize people. We've seen it with Whitmer. We've seen it with a number of other FBI plots where they go in and they find the mentally unhinged and the mentally unwell people to radicalize online. If Israel
we need to go into the Capitol, right?
No, it's like that's exactly like you don't need to go extravagant, complicated, more risky. That'll get you blocked by someone who's sensitive. But so like all that to say is when the response is Fed slop or Zionist, I'm not dealing with people who are intelligent, good faith, or actual humans. And when
you think they're bots?
Look, it's one of three things. They're either real people who have no idea who I am, which would make them, naive. Not that everybody should know who I am, but it's nice to have an idea as to someone's general history of existence and politics if you're going to make those accusations.
Sure.
So they either have no idea that I've defended Alex Jones against the Sandy Hook lawfare for damn near a decade. They have no idea that I've been one of the more critical, skeptical individuals as to October 7 happening the way it did, the degree it did, the scope it did. They have no idea that Barnes has basically been called a Jew-hating anti-Semite on our Sunday show. And so they come in and say Fed slop Zionist. It means they're grossly ignorant. Robots that are just out there, like just auto-replying, which I think they are because some of these replies don't even have any connection to the original comment, or they're just bad faith actors who want to abuse of the fact that people don't generally know everybody else on social media. And so they say these things, and then enough people might believe it at the end of the day to say, now I no longer have to listen to Viva, because what does he know? He's just a Fed-slopping Zionist Jew.
Sure.
But no, all that, just even to get back to it.
Just to be clear, that's not my position on you, by the way. One of the reasons I want to have this conversation is I don't even know whether you're a Zionist or not. I haven't even looked at your post history to see what you think.
It's so good.
I don't care, though, because I know you're not a liar. Like, we might disagree, whatever.
No, well, but I thank you for saying it, and like I'm glad some people understand it. The Zionist question, if the Zionist thing is just it's become a trope. It's such a people say, well, Viva, do you think Israel has the right to exist? I was like, do you ask that question of any other country? Like, does Canada have the right to exist? Like,
no, definitely
every country. So any country. So the bottom line, however, I was like, I don't know. It gets into the point where like it's almost like you feel this reflex, like, no, look, I have to show you how much I criticize Israel instead of just dealing with the issue. I will never live in Israel. I've made that abundantly clear because of the COVID response. Because unless they get a wildly better government, I would neither choose to live in Israel nor refuse to live in Israel.
Are you Jewish?
I'm born Jewish. I have internal struggles with that type of it's not the religious element of the identity of being Jewish is not a part of my day-to-day period. I'm not even sure that I wouldn't say I believe in a Jewish God any more than any other, a Muslim God or whatever. I believe in a broader broader faith. I do believe in God. And
so you're like a deist, right? You believe in God, but the details may be antagonistic.
Well, I don't know. I'm not even trying to ever say it. I don't know how you can't believe in God when you just walk around this beautiful earth and see these things that just can't be accidents.
When you look at Sydney Sweeney's eyes.
No. I was thinking more like the Eastern lubber grasshopper when I go biking and I see this big fat grasshopper with like these hydraulic legs, these beautiful colors on the Everglades of Florida. I'm like, yeah, this is as much of an accident, and I appreciate now in retrospect as much of an accident as finding a watch on the beach and saying, yeah, it must have just evolved that way. Like it must just be it happened by nature, by accident. So it is all that, but all that say, people, my Wikipedia, obviously a child of a Jewish family, and that people say, oh, found another one. I mean, when this discussion has become dichotomized on the basis of religion and Israel, it shows you that on the one end, I'm not even going to invoke the anti-Semitism. I don't think it's anti-Semitism. I think it's trolling on the one hand, and I do think it's something of an operation because a lot of these accounts are I follow them. They got their numbers and their names. They've had 5 name changes. They're overseas. They all say they're legitimate, but they're out there with the same type of idiotic, inane, substantiveless responses. Some of these people I do know, which is where it gets a little depressing.
So your intuition is that there is a machine that pushes various Zionist Fed slop criticisms or attacks on individuals when they make certain points or when they're perceived to have made certain points.
And it might just be like purely organic in the sense that it's monetized either directly through ad revenue or monetization or the clout that goes with a viral tweet. There's definitely, I
see. So not necessarily a centralized like entity.
No, it might be just decentralized. People doing it for shits and giggles. Foreign nations doing it to stir discord. Nothing would be better for China and Russia than what is currently going on in America right now with the division among the right, which was coalesced and kicking ass after the 2024 election. Nothing's been better for foreign adversarial nations than the infighting.
Yeah,
and
the Democrats have been just quietly letting it happen.
Well, but they're having their own issues as well. But bottom line,
they'll be all right.
Well, they do fall into line like a true cult, better than independent critical thinkers. No,
they're happy to vote for the lesser evil. They don't have principle.
They're happy to vote for the Mamdani. So long as they're promising other people's money.
Actually,
they don't
I think
care.
he killed Charlie Kirk.
But no, I'd say him. Okay, set that joke aside now, but bring it back to the beginning, Chase. Because
sorry, Viva, I'm just hyperactive and I don't have my ADD medicine because I take all of it the first half of the month.
Well, dude, I as well, and I don't have the distraction of seeing what people are saying in the chat. But so just to bring it back, one can easily imagine that and it could have been deep state elements that didn't want Charlie continuing to influence the better part of young America out of these forever wars. It could be Democrats. It could be the Biden administration that weaponized lunatics online to go after prominent conservative figures who had influence. It could be Israel, who was angry that Charlie, was questioning October 7, changing his views on, the unquestioning support of Israel. So it could have been. But the problem is entertaining the insane ideas, or I should say baseless ideas, versus the outright disinformation ends up going back to the Sandy Hook thing, in a position where those who are asking legitimate questions get lumped together with the nobody died at Sandy Hook crowd. And it's what's wild is that I was going back to my
there probably were legitimate questions to be asked around Sandy Hook, but because of the way they blew up Alex Jones, everybody with legitimate or interesting questions to ask about what took place on that day was lumped into this.
Absolutely. When they said they tore down the school, I was like, yeah. I mean, they tore it down 9 months after. Right. I would be shocked if they hadn't done everything, all the forensics they had to. But
so there could be maybe perhaps legitimate concerns or criticisms of Erika Kirk and her leadership of TPUSA post facto. But given that there's been these radical claims about what may have happened instead of the official narrative around the assassination of Charlie Kirk, anybody that might have a legitimate criticism of TPUSA or whatever gets lumped into this "you're a lunatic" kind of category. Is that what you're saying?
I would have gone before. I think scrutinizing the choice of Erika, scrutinizing them selling shirts afterwards, scrutinizing their decisions to try to keep TPUSA afloat after Charlie gets killed. I would go the other way. Things that happened before Charlie Kirk got killed.
Okay.
So when people said, hey, they tore down the school at Sandy Hook. That's weird, eh? That proves that nobody died.
It's weird that they paved over the site in which.
Well, I'll get to that because it's weird, but there's also legitimate explanations. But no, when people said they tore down the building because nobody died there, well, great. Now nobody's going to ask why they tore down the building. And when you understand that the legitimate criticism for them tearing down the building might have been to hide the fact that they never implemented any of the safety protocol that they had received state or federal funds to implement to mitigate a mass shooting event.
So why do you think they paved over the death scene of Charlie?
Well, it depends. It wasn't to hide a trap door.
Is that one of the claims? I thought that was one of the
claims. No. I believe, at the risk of being wrong, I'm fairly certain Candace had floated the idea of the bullet coming from underneath, and could have been trap doors. So that's a legitimate concern. Like, why would, first of all, you get clear on the facts. This is one that Clint
Russell.
Clint Russell. I'm trying to think of Liberty Lockpod. Liberty Lockpod. When he said they paved over, dug up the dirt at the request of the feds or the governor, I was like, this is where you lump together a disputed or incorrect fact with a correct fact, and then it becomes incorrect as a whole. My understanding is that it was the university that did it on a rush basis without running it by the feds or without running it by the authorities. And then the question would be, all right,
I wish I was in a position to fact check you on that because
I haven't been able to definitively.
Right.
No, that's the thing. I've heard both now. I've heard that. Well, first of all, I know that there was a guy, one of the paver workers, who said, I was told by the guy who told me to do it that the order came from the feds or the
Yes,
government.
that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
And I guess that's hearsay, right?
It's not just hearsay. It's third-party hearsay. So all of a sudden, third-party hearsay.
America needs a third party, bro. What are you talking about?
If only it were a useful type of third party. He is basically saying, not that's what you told me, Chase. That's what Alice told you that you told me. So he's saying he told me that they told him that this came from the governor. So that's third-party hearsay out of court. I don't know if it was under oath. Let's just even assume it's under oath. It's still third-party hearsay, but I don't think it was. All of a sudden, third-party hearsay becomes legitimate evidence to substantiate this conspiracy, where Tyler Robinson Lance Twiggs saying Tyler Robinson confessed to me. They don't believe that. So
Right. Less degrees of separation.
But this is where like people they don't apply the same logic to that which they want to believe because they want to come to certain conclusions. I will appreciate people are going to say Lance Twiggs is a liar. I happen to think he's quite clearly lying or not sharing the entire truth. We'll find that out, later on. But when people say, well, the paver said that his boss told him that the feds told him to do it and do it real quick and rush, like third-party hearsay. My understanding of the actual situation, the university did it to cut, basically it's been 4 days. They've done all they need to do. They need to get back to business. They don't want to have this bloody crime scene at the center of their university disrupting school affairs. And so they did it. They dug it up, get the dirt out. Presumably they didn't destroy the evidence. But I can understand people saying that risks not contaminating but destroying evidence.
Why wouldn't you just put like an enclosure over it like you do when someone gets their house treated for termites?
Well, but the question is
the
this,
whole house.
When someone gets murdered in a shopping center, how long do they close the shopping center down for? I mean,
I don't
4
know.
days, 5 days, a week. You get the evidence you need, and then you bring it, you make it back open to the public. I can understand why people find that suspicious, but then the question is going to be, what do you think they did? Like, what would you deduce from that? That they dug up secret tunnels to hide the fact that the shot came from underneath and not from the top? So that's a legitimate question. It might have a legitimate answer that people might not like. And it might also just have incompetence as the answer. The university just acting fast in panic mode and did something stupid that might have compromised some of the exculpatory evidence, I guess, because whatever. So that's one thing. What were some of the other theories that people?
Well, there's the microphone thing. There's the issue with the paving over that we just discussed. There's the fact that there was another round found on a different roof, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is definitely curious.
There's the detail of the mysterious armed man that was in civilian clothing with a badge that nobody knows who he was, that went up on the roof to find the site of the alleged shooting. That's bizarre. The Egyptian airplanes, don't forget about those, bro.
Well, but that's also why, let's just say this. I still have my questions. Who's in the Discord chats? And I can't prove that the answer I'm being given is wrong, but I don't
Netanyahu, Ben Shapiro.
Well, no, I just don't believe the answer is nobody of relevance, nobody of interest, and nothing of interest occurred in those Discord chats. I just don't believe it.
Yeah, there's no way Tyler acted alone. And there is footage that I've seen that does look like there was a getaway vehicle that was on standby for him. Some of the Coleman stuff that he's covered. I haven't watched all of his content, so I can't speak to everything he's ever said.
I know, but
him going over that shit is like really alarming. Some of the details, the car that speeds off that looks like it's checking to make sure he's okay. You know what I'm talking about?
Not specifically with that. I know of the major piece, which is that one of the neighbors said that the car that they've identified as Tyler's, they said had
multiple
three people in it.
Yeah.
With the so I don't believe. Again, I know what I believe. I know what I can prove. I know it doesn't make sense based on what we're being told. I have great difficulty accepting the answer that nothing of relevance was on those Discord chats and nobody discussed any of this on the Discord chats. He went to the Discord chat to admit to what he did. And I'm going to believe that he did that in a domain, in a forum where nobody ever discussed politics or anything. But then people are going to say he didn't do that either because he was already...
and there's question as to whether the timestamps even add up.
Yeah, well, he was Mirandized at 6:25 and that text was sent at 7:50 and he was only arrested at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, give or take. And again, that's another one where people say it just everything gets reduced to if you don't agree with this, you're a Fed slopping Zionist. People say, and it's a legitimate thing. If the timeline doesn't add up, it'll be a big problem come trial. Right now, people say, "What do you believe?" I believe that the threshold for probable cause has easily been met, and if something comes out that's a massive material discrepancy in the timeline, in Tyler's presence, then trial,
he'll be acquitted. Or he could be acquitted.
Then we'll deal with it. I mean, you'll deal with it when you have the adversarial full evidentiary hearing. Much like, based on what I saw, I would have said there was probable cause to charge Chauvin. And then when I saw
why would he turn himself in and then not plead guilty? Is that normal?
Well, again, like, is anything normal after you've killed somebody? You're going to turn yourself in.
I understand, but is there like a legal reason why someone would turn themselves in?
Because you know that you're the number one suspect. They're looking for you. What are your options?
So he's never made a formal confession to law enforcement, correct? There's been allegations that he confessed to his lover and maybe even his family.
And I know people take issue with this because if you don't believe the text messages are authentic, you won't believe the confession. That there were 4 or 5 that allegedly he confessed to his parents. Allegedly he confessed to Tyler. To Lance, allegedly he confessed in the note. Allegedly he confessed in the Discord server. So allegedly, and again, we're not yet at the trial. There are 4, if not 5, I forget what the 5th one might have been, confessions, written or spoken. Then in order for people to get around this and say, no, it wasn't, it's like, it's the old meme, like Tyler Robinson will admit to doing it, and then they're going to say, oh, the Zionists got to Tyler Robinson. I appreciate people don't believe Lance Twiggs, and so they're going to say, well, I don't believe his confession.
You wouldn't let him watch your kids?
These
your face.
No, but these people, like, it's degeneracy and loserness of the highest order. Set aside all of what they've been accused of, but no, Lance, I don't. I believe he's lying. And then the question is, well, if I believe he's lying about some things, why do I believe him about others? There's an aggregate of evidence here. Do I believe he's lying to cover his own ass? If you want to get conspiratorial and say Lance is the one who fired the shot and he's framing his lover boy, I could even potentially get on board with that. You cut that guy's hair, he won't look much different than the guy in the photos. But again, there's levels of conspiracy, and then there's levels of acknowledging you don't have the slightest shred of evidence to substantiate what you believe. So the bottom line, Lance Twiggs.
Do you think it's more likely that Lance Twiggs was actually the killer than it is likely that the lapel mic exploded?
Yes, I think the lapel mic exploding.
That's a clip. Got what I needed.
No, don't do it. Be sure to add this: the microphone exploding is as implausible as Jewish space lasers. I mean, you want to come and say,
dude? Jewish space lasers are real. Did you see what happened to Hawaii? Only the Blue Man Group survived.
I know the space lasers are real. I also debunked the claim. Marjorie Taylor Greene never said Jewish space lasers. She said space lasers, named a bunch of people, not even all who were Jewish. Some of them were not Jewish at all. And then the media went with Jewish space lasers, and that's stuck in the consciousness and memory of society. It's as outlandish.
But they're real.
No, I know they're real.
So you just said that the Jewish space lasers thing is as likely as the, I'm like,
not that space lasers don't exist, but that space lasers, killed Charlie. So no, okay, I seriously think anybody who's I think a lot of people are floating the exploding mic. I would say for opportunism. Not that it matters what the intent is. The outcome is the same. They are getting clicks and making a fantastical spectacle out of Charlie Kirk's assassination, which I think is grotesque. And if they seriously believe it, they're incapable of understanding. They have zero evidence to support it other than what they think they can surmise from grainy photos and broken glass in the car. But no, I would have zero difficulty believing that Lance Twiggs had a much more active role in this assassination.
Oh, almost certainly.
And then people are going to say, Viva, but now you don't believe the Fed slop. I never believed the Fed slop, you raging buffoons who keep saying that, thinking you're making a point. One of the issues, you know who Richard Baris is?
I can't say that I do. Forgive me.
People's Pundit. No, you know who he is. People's Pundit. He was one of the pollsters. He predicted Massey was going to win, and Massey didn't. But he's one of the guys that has been taking a lot of shit because he's been criticizing a lot of the Trump administration's decisions over the last year and a half, saying it's going to cost them the midterms. Mm-hmm. Well, he's relatively connected and much more connected to people than I am, especially in the administration. And one day he tweeted out something to the effect of, it had expletives in it, that these fuckers, know more than they're letting on, and they're not going to do justice by Charlie. And then I had him come on the channel because I knew what he was talking about and explain it himself to the world. And his gripe to and it's my understanding of what Joe Kent was saying as well, is that they decided, apparently potentially, to narrow the prosecution investigation to make sure that at least they get a conviction out of Tyler Robinson. And so,
forgive me, man, I don't know what that means. They decided to narrow what charges they were going to do, or
no,
I'm sorry.
In order to potentially not complicate a prosecution through potential rabbit holes that may be exposed through.
So if you bring up all the conspiracy and all the other people who may have been involved, it muddies it up and makes it less difficult to actually pin it.
Well, and this is an oversimplified. It's not even an analogy, but it's an oversimplified reduction. If you don't know who pulled the trigger, technically, there's also everybody conspires in a capital murder, then they're all guilty of it. But if you don't know who pulled the trigger, then it might make it more difficult for a jury to convict one of many people. And so, hypothetically, I can understand the frustration of some who say they may have been limiting the scope of the investigation just to make sure they at least convict Tyler Robinson, because if it gets too big and too complicated, it might make it more difficult to prosecute. It might bring in other people.
That's fucking gay.
Well, that's why Rich Baris and a bunch of people were frustrated at that. You want to get conspiratorial, and this is the darkest black pill of my psyche. Hypothetically, we know that there were Feds, confidential human sources, assets in January 6th, the setting up and the carrying it. We know it.
Certainly.
We know
it's been admitted.
It's been admitted. We know that there were more informants, CHS's assets and agents involved in the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping than there were defendants. Hypothetically, God forbid, it's known that there were government agents involved in some form of online radicalization of this group. And then you're
talking about Tyler Robinson's group?
Tyler Robinson's group, yeah.
We know that, or you're just saying hypothetically?
No. We do not know this.
Okay, thank you. I'm just clarifying. Thank you.
If you no, please. And this is where I say, like, if you want to get conspiratorial as to why they would shut down an investigation, even this administration, hypothetically, God forbid, you found out that there were some government elements in this online with advanced, something's going to happen. We don't exactly know who, and they choose not to act, or they had some involvement, and then it ends up with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. People would be burning buildings down. And that's if you want to go into...
That's not true, but I wish.
No, well...
They'd be bitching on Twitter for sure.
Well, that is if you want to make sense of why they would shut down an investigation.
Yes, it would definitely cause collateral damage. Yes.
It would cause collateral damage to a point where not that anybody trusts government, but they might come out with pitchforks. So I can entertain these theories as well. For the time being, we don't have any of the evidence to substantiate it. And then the question is only, I don't believe it when they say that no one else was materially involved in those Discord chats or had advanced knowledge. I would love to know who all of those people are. When the judge comes in during the preliminary hearing and is, for the sake of privacy or whatever, blacking out the names of the people in the recipient list of the Discord chats, part of me says, I'd like to know who they are. And maybe the reason why he's blacking out their names is because you don't want the aggregate, knowledge of the internet or the weaponized autists at 4chan finding out that some of these people may have connections, or some of these people may be not even in the Israeli government. Yeah. Well, no, or they're known, or they're just or it just highlights an abject failure of intelligence and security to prevent the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Sure.
And then so that's it. But what's really dismaying out of all of this is I appreciate there's camps. Candace is a very compelling. She's a good storyteller. She's
talented.
Well, she's talented, but like I've always said, like talent without a moral compass is a weapon, not a tool. For her to come out and say A and not A on any given day, and then someone says, "Well, have you watched all of her episodes?" Like, it's been her life for the last 10 months to keep up with that. It's an unreasonable ask. And they say, well, she's revised her Egyptian planes theory. As new facts come in, you revise your theory. I legit hear people.
Yeah, her theories have gone through phases.
Yeah, but when you revise bullshit theories because they were based on nothing but rumor, of course you're going to revise them. If you do it too many times, it means you come to conclusions a little bit too rapidly. And no, these weren't just questions. These were the Egyptian planes hold the key to the Charlie Kirk assassinations. These were statements, affirmations. And I appreciate you change as facts come in. But if you come to conclusions too rapidly before the facts are in, that's a sign of bad judgment, or at least unreliable sources, or being an unreliable source yourself. So, the guys, the most recent one was Diligent Denizen and what's the other guys? Baron Coleman. I think Baron Coleman was also on the receipt. Yeah, it was Baron Coleman saying he couldn't have gotten from the steakhouse in Panguitch to Orem in 3 hours, and we've got a receipt that shows him buying a steak dinner. The waiter.
I've heard that.
Yeah, no, and the waiter identified him there drinking 2 beers at the bar at table 24. We get his receipt. And then I'm like, okay, that's first of all, if he was at a steakhouse in Panguitch at 10 o'clock, and then he was supposed to have sent a text from Orem, Utah at 11 o'clock, and it would have taken 200 and some odd miles an hour to get there in 1 hour, I would agree. That's a big problem. That's a big question that's going to have to be answered. Before you get to it's a big problem, you want to look at your evidence. And so when they come out and said, we interviewed Denizen, I interviewed a waiter at the restaurant who says he identified Tyler Robinson there. He had 2 beers. He said it twice. He didn't serve him, however, but he got the receipt. Then you get the receipt. Like, okay, there's no beers on this receipt. Oh, so he made a mistake on the beers, but he identified it. Well, if he made a mistake on the beers, maybe he made a mistake on who he thought was drinking those beers. I mean, 2 beers is a bigger mistake that is a little bit less difficult.
Was there a receipt with the name Tyler Robinson on it?
Well, but then that's the other thing. So then Candace comes out and says, I've seen the receipt. he was there.
Has anyone seen it?
Well, no, nobody's
has
seen
it been
receipts.
publicly released?
Not unredacted. So, and then it comes out and she says, "I've seen the receipt. He ate at the restaurant." It's a very, very loyal. You say smart, but smart without a moral compass. She didn't say I saw his name on the receipt. She didn't really explain how she identified it as his receipt. At first, we thought the name was on the receipt. Then it was like, no, his name's not on the receipt. So we don't even know how they tied that receipt to him. The owner of the restaurant comes out and says, Tyler was not at our restaurant. We gave a receipt to the FBI. They didn't move on it. And now the owner of the restaurant has to be in on it. He disabled the cameras to hide the fact that Tyler Robinson was there. He's lying about Tyler Robinson being there. This waiter, who misidentified Tyler Robinson as drinking 2 beers because it's not on the receipt, is somehow right. Everybody else is lying. Everybody else is in on it. And so, but the second you start asking those questions, then they accuse you of being a Fed-slopping Zionist. But the fact that that is the response to me, indicates, again, like either people are dumb, either people are bots, or people are malicious and trying to distract from meaningful discourse to sow discord. And none of the three options, and it's probably a bit of A, B, and C, are good options.
Well, shit, I mean, I don't even know what to say to that.
No, but it's the problem also is,
all I know is that I'm just glad we got to the bottom of the fact that it was the mic that exploded.
Yeah, no, it's the exploding mic. I mean, look, technically it's possible, but again, you go back. Oh, we're gonna take the.
You just wait, Viva. You just wait.
Oh, and by the way, I'll eat crow if I'm reluctant to be not stubborn, but I'm reluctant to be definitive about what I believe.
So, what do you think? If you had to guess, and this is perhaps a rash and foolish exercise, but let's do it anyway because it's fun and interesting. If you had to guess what happened, what would your guess? Like, if you're at the pearly gates, God's like, all right, listen, you got to test.
I'll tell you.
Write down all the details you think happened, and if you get remotely close, the closer you get, the more shit you get, and the more virgins you get in heaven. All right.
I only need one. I only need one woman, and she's no longer a virgin. But
okay, that's fine, right?
If I look again, what I believe, I have to at least be able to tie it back to what is generally known as of now. I appreciate people don't think it was a 30-06. I appreciate that. And then I said, okay, maybe the prosecution made a mistake on the bullet. I appreciate people don't think it was a 30-06. I personally think, as of now, and as of the evidence that we have, the best evidence is that it was a shot. It came from the roof of that building. I don't know if Tyler was on the one on there who pulled the trigger. I don't know if there's a second shot. It was a bullet. It came from roughly that area. That's where everybody turned their heads the day of. To the extent it was Tyler, my best guess of theory is people were posting in advance that something big is going to happen at UVU.
They were.
Now it might just be the
same.
And
they don't always do that, by the way. That's not just like a pattern.
Well, yeah, but that's what I was going to say. Like, people, it does happen enough that, maybe it's just a coincidence. Okay. People were posting in advance something's going to happen. He gets shot from a roof. I'm not going to identify who did it. That's for the trial. Best evidence, he got shot from that roof that was unsecured. TPUSA was told they didn't need to have drones there, or they weren't allowed to have drones there for security, that UVU was going to take care of securing that roof. People had advanced knowledge. George Zinn was there, said he was the guy in order to let the shooter get away. How he knew that, my theory is that there were other people involved, radicalizing Tyler or whomever in these Discord communities online, that there may have been government assets, government agents in there, and it would be not just embarrassing, but incriminating if they not only failed to prevent it, but maybe had a hand in weaponizing an individual who went on to kill,
either intentionally or inadvertently.
Yeah, it's like that's beyond embarrassment. They through act or omission, Charlie Kirk got assassinated. So, knowing all of this, likely a shot from the roof, people with advanced knowledge, there was a guy there to help the individual get away. Tyler Robinson allegedly goes back to Lance Twiggs, whether they're working together or not, maybe to try to figure out a getaway. So I would bet that other people were involved. There could have been state actors. There could have been an online radical group through Reddit, subreddits, whatever, who did this. And the feds, either are deliberately trying to cover up the fact or not investigate the fact that there might have been government assets involved in this in one way or another, and it's easier just to focus on Tyler, or they were incompetent and didn't get ahead of this, and it happened under their watch. What's amazing is also, a lot people build their conspiracy on error that occurs in the process in the investigation. And like, it's amazing thing, like people seem to think that each and every investigation is like a Hollywood movie or one of those miniseries in its perfection. Like the investigators do everything right. There's no human error. There's no buffoons who forget to charge their cameras. There's no cops who who destroy evidence by accident or on purpose. So people go from the imperfections of every investigation to conclude broader conspiracies that are wholly untethered to even the weaknesses in the prosecution. There will be weaknesses. I mean, it's the nature of investigations, and there will be mistakes that have been made. And then the only question is, are they accidental, innocuous, or are they deliberate to cover up something else? That, very difficult to know. But no, my operating theory is that whoever was involved, there was something going on in these Discord chats in online communities. He was weaponized. People had advanced knowledge. I wouldn't be shocked if we were to find out George Zinn was LARPing as a teenager in these Discord chats, because they're all a bunch of freakish perverts. And so
do you
get
think it's more likely that George Zinn was in the Discord chats than it is that a lapel mic exploded?
People can call me a conspiracy theory all they want. It's inconceivable that George Zinn just happened to be there. After the shot goes out, he has the great idea of saying, I'm going to pretend to be the shooter. Like
immediately gauges in like third order thinking.
It's astronomically impossible that he was just there by accident, just had the idea spontaneously, that he even knew that Charlie Kirk got fatally shot.
Do you think he actually had CP on his device, or do you think they planted it as an excuse?
No, I would be surprised if he did. If this is an old pervert who's LARPing as a teenager in the furry trans community, getting his rocks off anonymously on the internet.
Wow, that does line up.
It totally lines up. But
he owns a lapel mic business. Did you know that?
No, he doesn't. No, okay. No, I know the guy's got a bit. You never know. But that's where then I'm going to say, well, the people are going to say, well, Viva, now you don't believe the feds off. I don't believe anybody. You try to get as much info as you can and come to the conclusions as reasonable as you can, justify them. This lines up with the facts as we currently know them. To me, no one's going to get me to believe that George Zinn was there by accident, and that he was there by accident. It happened. He immediately says,
he's not from Utah, is he?
I don't know. Dude has a habit of like finding himself in weird places, phoning in bomb threats. I'm not sure where he's from. People were saying that he's Jewish, George Zinn. My understanding is he's not, but the last German and Jewish last names always have a bit of overlap. And then he gets busted with porn with CSAM on his phone. That's what I would imagine an old man who's living anonymously in these teenage Discord chats, pleasuring himself on the internet. That's what I would imagine George Zinn is. He somehow got involved in these chats, knew something was going to happen, showed up, and then decided he's going to, try to help his boyfriend make his escape by pretending to be the shooter. I don't actually know this now that I say it out loud. I don't know where George Zinn was in respect of where Charlie got shot. So I don't know what George Zinn was even able to see. But to the extent he was even able to see it all and then made that decision, it's astronomical to the point of impossibility. And if he didn't, if he wasn't in a perfect vantage point to even see what happened.
Yeah, I agree with you. To just impulsively, make an assist like that without any preconceived notion or knowledge.
I also appreciate people saying it's an exploding lapel mic, he wasn't shot. This guy's there at the moment of saying, I shot him. Everybody understood it was a gunshot at the time. Then the only question is, okay, you refuse to believe it was a 30-06, and I can understand those arguments, but I'm not convinced. And I think to the extent there's a debate, it's definitionally therefore not impossible that a bullet doesn't leave an exit wound. Cernovich pulling up, subreddits from a decade ago of people talking about hunting and their 30-06 didn't leave an exit wound in a deer. And then people say, well, a deer is a bigger neck than a human neck. It's not inconceivable. It's not impossible that a bullet doesn't leave an exit wound. And
the research that I've done, which is modest, but using Claude on the just average behavior of a 30-06 round, is that not having an exit wound with the type of round that was used can happen 15% of the time.
Yeah.
So it's unlikely, but can.
Unlikely 1% of the time. Okay. It's not impossible. But
man, have you seen what a 30-06 can do to a pumpkin?
Well, yeah, but
I know it's not the same thing, but it's Jesus, dude. It doesn't look like a 30.
But Chase, has a 30-06 ever misfired? Like when people say a 30-06 always gives an exit.
I get it.
If a 30-06 has ever misfired,
that was an unlikely outcome, though. Unlikely is not the same as impossible, but
well, for sure. But also unlikely, 15%. I mean, those aren't even like shocking statistics. That's like 1 in 8. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
But it's no. So the only thing that pisses me off about all of this is there are people out there, and I like people saying I've picked on Candace. No, I was very, very slow.
Have you ever met Candace?
Not in person. No, I mean we've exchanged on we've had exchanges, and I've always been more than fair with Candace and defended her even when others said how can you defend her? But she's done things which I think in retrospect, if she ever gets to the point of looking back, say not objectively, but rather looking back critically, she'll say, yeah, I may have gotten caught up in the moment. I think a number of people probably will. I say the same thing about myself. I probably will look back at certain things and say I got caught up in the moment. But there's certain things that are just they're immoral. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's not to say that nobody can be scrutinized. She's not
to make the character like I'm with you, dude. But what I cannot tell, and we talked about this at the beginning of this broadcast, and perhaps it is irrelevant. I think it's deeply relevant whether she believes what she's saying or whether she's grifting. And it's not relevant because the outcome's the same. That's correct. But in terms of making a character judgment about Candace, like, look, if you're getting something wrong or if you're lying, those are two really different fucking things.
But you'll never know. And so the bottom line also, I forget who said it. There's an iteration of if a man makes enough money from what he's saying, he'll believe anything. I watch Baron Coleman, and when they make mistakes, I'm sure that they've convinced themselves that they believed it when they said it. But when I talk about Candace, like for Egyptian planes, saying he got shot, he didn't get shot. There could have been a trap door. Trying to think of some of the more outlandish things. The meeting at Fort Hachua. Those are mistakes. After enough mistakes, people should assess accordingly and know it's not just the catch-all. Well, she reassesses as information comes in. No. When Ian Carroll the day after said Israel just shot Charlie Kirk, I'm almost not even paraphrasing. That wasn't a question. It was an assertion, and everything that they ever look for needs to reaffirm what they already believe. But the bottom line also is whether or not she believes it or not, or thinks she's righteous in her pursuit or not, to publish text messages of Charlie talking about other girlfriends. It's irrelevant to anything except torturing the living human. It's so over the top.
The widow.
Well, and then people say, Viva, stop. She's not a grieving widow. Don't she will not be shielded from scrutiny for the rest of her life. True. But there are things that are irrelevant and just gratuitous for the sake of being gratuitous. Comparing Erika Kirk to the bride of Chucky, bringing up these text messages of now
that was the pun. The bride of Charlie was a joke off the bride. I didn't even put that together. That's hysterical.
That was the whole.
That is so fucking funny, dude. Are you kidding?
And so,
you don't like that? That doesn't make you.
I don't like tormenting.
I'm sorry. I don't want to torment her either. But Jesus Christ, she's worth tens of millions of dollars. She's going to be fine.
I frequently think back to the line of Mini Driver out of Good Will Hunting when he's saying you got all that money when your father died. It's like, you think I wouldn't give all that back for just another day with my father? Like, I don't care how much money on earth you're worth, unless you're going to suggest that it was she didn't love him and it was an opportunistic marriage. Again, more torturing for the sake of torture. There's nothing on earth that Erika Kirk wouldn't trade to have Charlie back in her life.
We don't know that. We don't know that. I mean, look, your point is well received. That, hey, maybe it's reckless, immoral to put somebody that, could feasibly just be a victim in this situation through the misery of having to contend with a massive swath of people thinking that she's an evil bitch or whatever. Like, that's well received. I understand what you're saying, but we don't really fucking know whether or not she gave a fuck about Charlie.
We don't know. Well, again, this is unfalsifiable. We don't know. If you have evidence to suggest that she didn't care about Charlie, or that she was somebody says, Viva, you know how often spouses are involved in the murder of their spouse?
I don't know, maybe lying about the fact that Charlie said that she should be the CEO or take over the company.
These are, let's just even say, like, immaterial to me, but I'll concede, okay, so she lied about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so she was in, now she has opened herself to ridicule. Whether or not she lied about it, because now you're presuming intent that she didn't just misremember or misspeak, that she knew it was a lie when she said it.
Yes, I believe that I do believe that Erika Kirk has intentionally misrepresented several of Charlie's positions, namely the position that she should be the CEO of TPUSA in the event that he can no longer serve in that capacity. I do believe that. Okay. And I think there's evidence for that.
Yeah, but now what? So you go from there to thinking that she was somehow had anything to do with the assassination? Because
I do not think that she had anything to do with the assassination. I just think that she's exploiting it post facto, and I think that she's. I do believe that she married him primarily for the status reasons. I don't think. I don't actually believe she gave a shit about him. No.
These are things that you'll never be able to prove. I maybe operate on the basis that I view others' intentions the way I would, and I did not.
I know, and that's noble about you. And I'm not trying to give you shit. And maybe I'm being obtuse here. But fuck it, man.
You can never prove it. I can never disprove it. Bottom line, they have kids together. Even if she is everything you say she is, that was the father to her children. I think that I've never seen more repulsive treatment of anybody. And then people say, why are you defending TPUSA?
You've never seen more repulsive treatment of anybody?
Oh, that might be hyperbolic, but demonizing the woman.
I'm not trying to be like a nitpicky asshole here in this conversation.
No, but I don't look. That's clearly that is obviously hyperbolic. Yeah, okay. Maybe there's been worse. Demonizing the woman of the man who's been assassinated only because the husband has been assassinated is repulsive. And then people say, "Why are you defending TPUSA?" I've got nothing to do with TPUSA, and I'm not defending Erika Kirk.
There is a way that Erika Kirk could have played this and not been met with massive amounts of antagonism. Like people are like, "Oh, this is so unprecedented." I was like, "All right." Everybody fucking loved Jackie because she nailed it. She created the perfect example of what you do when a massively popular political figure that you're married to is killed brutally.
But true.
You just fucking classy, and then go marry some Italian rich dude and live on a fucking yacht the rest of your life. But everybody will be happy for you. Chase, but no, I had to get involved. I had to do the fucking pyrotechnics, and I had to fucking ruin TPUSA and take over the fact.
Now I forgot what I was going to say, Chase.
I'm sorry, Beav. I'm being
sorry. The different thing is you say, yeah, she could have just gone and married somebody else. That one of two things is true. You're either presupposing that TPUSA would have survived without her doing what she's doing.
Certainly. Yeah, and I don't think it will survive with her doing what she's doing.
Well, but that's a different story. So either you're saying it would have survived without her, or that she didn't seriously think that she was doing what she was trying to do in order to preserve the legacy of TPUSA and not let it die with Charlie. So, but again, I appreciate. I
don't think she was involved at all in his death.
No,
that's not what I'm trying to imply.
No, I know, but then
I just don't like her at all, dude.
Well, I've never met her. I before I dislike somebody, I have to make sure that I have damn good reasons, and I'm slow to it. But when it came to certain people, like even Diligent Denizen, when he came out and said, I've got this, this interview with this guy, like he couldn't have been. It's like, have you stopped to look at your own product before you?
Have you been Diligent Denizen?
I don't know what denizen means, but and then whenever I criticize Candace, the immediate reaction is I'm a Zionist. So you understand that her base is not coming at this from any other perspective than if you disagree with Candace, you're a Jew, Zionist, Fed slopper, and it's the easiest way to never have to address the actual.
Well, I don't think you're a Zionist Fed slopper, but you definitely are a Jew.
Look, this is the thing. Because it's like there's ethnicity and then there's the religion part. Like, okay, I'm as much Jew as a black man is black because there's no ideological component to being black. Maybe there is. You could be black, I guess, and not be part of a rap culture, for example. I mean, that's a pretty bad example. But like, you're born a Jew.
Yeah, you can be black and bad at dancing.
Have you seen the movie The Jerk?
Yeah, it's been a long time though. Yeah, I've seen it a couple times.
It's a perfect. So ethnically Jewish and then ideologically are two different things. But the people who say we're just anti-Zionist, we're not anti-Semitic, and then it immediately goes to Zionist, shut your Fed slop hole. You quickly realize what a pretextual lie that statement is.
There's certainly a lot of convolution.
But I also think it's just a way of destabilizing the internet. It's a way of rendering X to be useless for what it was useful for in 2024, 2020, and
but I think there's some of that to be said. But if we look at the history of antagonism, specifically in Germany, toward the Jews,
school friend,
Jewish guy, right?
Actually, no, he wasn't. Well, he might be. He might have been. I have to go. He had blonde hair and blue eyes, so that's that's my. But anyway, so I meet him in the park later on in life, and we start. He says, "Oh, I'm in cognitive behavioral therapy, making an app for all this stuff." And we started talking about OCD, and he says one of the techniques that they do is in what do they call it? CBD, not CBD, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. They say they get people to write down the worst thing they can possibly think of, and the worst thing you could possibly imagine.
Sweeney, naked all over me.
The worst. Okay.
Then they do immersion therapy. Oh boy, I gotta see that CBT.
No, they mean like the worst thing. Like, I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to think it. I was like, I
Right,
would never.
right.
I would fail that element.
A
of the class
dripping
'cause
faucet, right? So like that could be something that would drive somebody with OCD nuts. Like every faucet in my house dripping, right? That might be something somebody would write.
No, dude, I'm thinking much more sinister. They're talking about things like wishing people dead. Like, just write it down.
Okay, all right.
And show that nothing happens when you write it down. Anyhow, all I'm saying is I would have failed that part of it because so I try not to put any even humorously juju in the universe, pun intended. So yes, all that to say, what's going on with this Charlie Kirk thing? On the one hand, also is the biggest spectacle. Like, people accuse me of being obsessed about it. Other than Twitter and trying to reestablish some facts, I try not to focus on it because this is not going to define my social media presence until the trial. I covered it when they had the preliminary hearing. I'm going to cover it when the ruling comes out and try to address
you covered the Alex Jones stuff as it was developing, and I'm certain that you did the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff as it was.
But then it didn't define my social media existence, because what happens is when these when people define themselves by the Johnny Depp trial or some of these bigger trials, you get a massive following. The trial's over. And it's
audience capture, then you're irrelevant. Yeah.
One note Tommy, whatever it is.
One hit wonder.
But like, appreciate some people's, they better enjoy it, while they have it. But it's 24/7, their content, their analysis. We're not even at the trial yet.
But Candace is not. She's such a big brand. I don't think that she's going to get pigeonholed in this one story. She'll find something else.
She'll find something else. But look, she'll find something else. But right now, to say that she's just asking questions, it's drama for the sake of drama in the context of the Charlie Kirk assassination. And the Ben Shapiro. Oh, we forgot about that. Ben Shapiro.
I hate that guy too, man. I'm sorry.
I don't hate Ben Shapiro. I've met him once.
You got to tap into hate, dude. It's powerful.
No. Look, no. When it's required, I'll judge a person righteously. And I don't think Ben likes me because I've needled him over his deference to authority when it came to the jab, and not just not just deference, but like judgmental superiority over others who he thought he knew better than. And it's that type of judgment mistake that sours any other things that they're going to say going forward. Now it's when it comes to Ukraine.
Well, he never really seemed to like apologize for it.
No, that requires an apology. And then people say, well, Viva, you took 2 shots. And I'm like, what's more oppressive than a tyrannical government? A Jewish mother. Bada bing, bada boom. It's like what I did for my own reasons, and to I had old parents, and whether I regret it, maybe, because at the time I just
you are retarded now.
Well, no, that's what I've been told. At the time I was retarded. At the time, like I was like, okay, if the worst that it does is nothing. I didn't fully appreciate the harm that it did, and by the grace of God, I had my children, so I don't need my testicles anymore. Whatever heart issues may or may not be attributed to whatever, but I still defended everybody's right to not do it. It's the haughtiness and the arrogance of thinking I'm right, therefore I get to dictate to others based on my own confidence in my own views, and to not respect other people's autonomy. But yeah, no, not to make excuses. Like, at the time it was. You got a lot of old people.
Whatever. You just love Fed slop, and you got the vaccine.
Until I got my microchip.
That's why that explains why you believe the official Fed narrative on the assassination of Charlie Kirk, because you believe the official Fed narrative on the vaccines. I get it.
No, it's funny, but like people are going to say now that I'm a crazy conspiracy theory because I put forward what I believe are more plausible theories.
You got a booster though?
No, are you out of your effing mind? By that time,
you said you got 2 shots.
Yeah, because
So you got to get a booster, right?
This was fun. This was close to. No, it's 5 years ago. Actually, it's 5 years ago to the day.
Yeah.
And by the way,
I got the J&J shot, so I made a mistake too.
Yeah, I got the Pfizer one, and then people say like you bought the fence. I didn't do it for the government.
I had a premature baby that was born and underdeveloped lungs, and so like we just kind of panicked and got the J&J. Like
you're in panic mode. When I did it, there were 2 reasons. I was running for federal office, and I always played in the park with the kids that went to the daycare where my kids went to the daycare, and I knew that if they would have probably tried to criminally prosecute me if they said I got some of those kids sick because I didn't get the shot. Yeah. And I had 2 old parents.
I tell you what, man, you're winning everybody over with this story.
Yeah. Are you reading the chat?
No, I just know.
There was that, and then I have 2 old parents with underlying conditions, and it was like we would feel better if it's like, okay, look, if I had known the harm that it could have done to me, I probably would have lied to my parents. At the time, I was so ignorant. I just say, oh, okay, the worst thing that it does is nothing. But I wasn't also 13 to 30-year-old male with risk of myocarditis.
Well, and in what we knew in April of 2021, March, April 21 was a lot different from what we knew in like even July of 21.
Well, absolutely. And I remember
it was like 8 weeks there where like it kind of made sense to get it, and then all of a sudden it was like, whoa, what the fuck?
It was who was I think it was Malone and first talking about the spike protein and how it
Robert
doesn't
Malone
stay.
and who's the guy that's the cardiac guy in Houston? I can't remember
there's not a Charia. Then there was come on, the cardiac Peter McCullough.
Peter McCullough is the one I'm thinking of, and then Malone.
Robert Malone. In the early stages, when I didn't understand what they were saying, like, oh, the spike protein doesn't stay in the cells. Like, as far as I ever thought, like vaccine. Okay, I just got a tetinus shot today. I talked about this.
You got a tetanus shot today? Get the fuck out of here, bro. You're not making any friends. You need media coaching, dude.
No, I tell you,
it doesn't work retroactively, right? Would you cut yourself with a rusty nail and then you got the tetanus shot?
No, I didn't. It was not even out of medical necessity. It's out of, again, other necessity.
I can't believe you're still getting vaccines in 2026. No, you're a fucking lunatic.
And I'm sitting there. I'm with my doctor, who I trust, and I'm with my wife. I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want
man. You have me second guessing all my opinions on the assassination of Charlie Kirk until you said you got the tetanus shot today. Now I'm totally convinced I'm right about everything.
It's out of reasons of compulsion and not out of reasons of choice. So they said, when was the last time you got it? I said 8 years ago. And the funny thing is, 8 years ago, I got the shot. I made a video about it because I was metal detecting and I was digging up something and I cut my finger on a pull tab. Yeah. And back then I ran to the doctor to get the test. Like, quickly, give me the test shot. Now I was looking at my wife and I was like, I don't want any more vaccines, only because now I'm fearful of what they might do. Tetanus has been around forever, and I'm relatively my arm does hurt actually, but you're relatively confident in the non. It's got a
That's
longer
a vanilla
history.
one. I get it. It's a vanilla one. It's not the same thing as blasting your kid with 18 vaccines the first day they're born.
And then SIDS is a thing now. Like,
look, I still respect you. I'm just saying that nobody else does anymore.
First of all, I don't hide anything, I don't hide anything. I'm transparent so that people can assess accordingly. But what pisses me off is when people buy into the lies that they're being fed by their trusted sources, and then they come out and say, "You supported
like the tetanus shot works."
I know that there's an argument that it doesn't, and I know even when it comes to the wounds that you get the tetanus shot for, by and large, nobody gets tetanus anymore. And
when was the last time you saw somebody with lockjaw? Like, make sure you get the tetanus shot.
World War I. Let's understand. Like, yeah, it's as a result of a deep wound that you seal up, and then you seal it. Anyhow, the bottom line, there's things that Chase, what's weird is to go to public school in Florida, the freest state in the union. Yeah. They've got some pretty wild vaccine requirements in order to be allowed to attend public school, and they're not very good on accepting religious exemptions. So it is weird, but that's a total tangent. But no, the bottom line is my position on Charlie Kirk is relatively sensible. But people don't like it when you
obviously you're not a Fed slop Zionist propagandist, dude. Like, that's obvious. No, so if we've accomplished anything with this conversation, I hope that people realize that you're not.
No, I don't even.
You could be wrong, but you're not. It's not like malicious.
But I say I'm not even going to be. I'm not. If I'm wrong, I will absolutely own up and admit it.
I believe that about you.
And then the question is, was I wrong because of an unavoidable
because of the tetanus shot?
Yeah, that's it. It's it does make you retarded. No, but if you're wrong, you also have to say, why were you wrong? Were you wrong because you didn't have total information, or you didn't interpret it properly, or you were operating too quickly, or you disregarded legitimate sources and legitimate criticism? Some people have been consistently wrong, and the wronger they are, the more people, the wronger they are, the more they lash out at others. But I do think some of the treatment has been terrible, unjustifiable, and I think some of the theories are insane to the point where I would question the intelligence or the sincerity of people espousing them. And even when you say, look, I know the lapel mic, I can imagine it.
So you question you question my intelligence and my sincerity.
Well, I told everybody, I said, if depending on your answers to the exploding mic, I'll tell you what I think, and you're a big man and you won't get offended by it.
No, it'll be cool.
And it's as crazy to me a theory as flat Earth. Except maybe it's logistically possible, but the reason for which people believe that is the exact same reason for which they believe the earth is flat, because the government always lies to you. So if they tell you that the earth is round, it has to be flat.
But that's not the reason I gave.
No, you gave the reason that it's technically possible, although you admit that you have no evidence to support it, which is as good of an answer as anybody.
Which is why I'm not in the replies being like, "You fucking fed slap Israel." You know, like I don't know.
No, now you're gonna get the people saying it's true,
bro.
and nobody died at Sandy Hook.
I got swatted twice in one day last year. Fuck everybody. I don't care anymore.
Now, did you get a real SWAT, or was it just cops?
I was the first one that got swatted, and the first one was at noon. That one was vanilla. They called me. They met me in the driveway. That was fine. The second one was the night shift at 1 a.m. The day shift hadn't told the night shift that I was under SWAT attack. That one was loudspeaker in front of my house with blaring lights and lasers and ARs.
How do you even come out in a way that's not going to trigger a potential violent response?
Well, first thing I did was secure my dog.
Yep.
And then when I opened the front door of my house, I curled my fingers around the door at the top so they could see my hands before they saw the rest of my body. Does that make sense?
That's good. Yep.
And then I just opened the door really slowly. So I didn't like just walk out, you know. I wanted them to see my hands first. I opened the door.
Securing your dog is probably the best piece of advice for anybody, because I was talking about with my dad also, like, not that the cops are not much better up in Canada. If they'll shoot your fucking dog and not even apologize afterwards. So
yeah.
Dude, this was good.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks for doing this. I love
My arm really hurts. Now you're making me nervous that something's happening in there.
Bro, you think I'm retarded for thinking that it was a lapel mic? You got a fucking tetanus shot. You're out of control. Anytime you want to do content, let me know, man. You're always welcome. I'm gonna
go read the chat and see what people have to say about that.
Yeah, share it, please, so that there is a chat. Love you.